let's go, let's...
The favorite of towns near and far.
Janner memorized the whole book. Whoa! It's so cute!
Wow, this is amazing. Ain't that the truth?
Come on, let's go, let's go!
Hey
everybody. Welcome. I am Chris. This is
I'm Andrew. It's good to see everybody.
executive producers of the Wingfeather Saga animated series. Thanks for joining us on your Friday evening. Glad to be here with you live. We've had to do recorded versions recently, and so it's good to be back here. And yeah, if you haven't watched episode 4, we're going to spoil some things. So hopefully you've watched episode 4. But otherwise, tonight we're going to get to talk quite a lot about that episode and give you some inside stuff. And then we have a special guest we're going to be interviewing here in a little bit. And then we also have another exclusive clip for episode 5, which comes up next Friday, the 24th. So you don't want to miss that. So it should be a fun time.
Yeah.
So how are you?
I'm doing all right. I'm very excited. Can I show them why I'm excited?
Can you wait for just?
But I
right
got something in the mail today that I want to show you guys, but I'll wait.
You're gonna see what Andrew brought. He's genuinely so excited about it.
It's kind of ridiculous how excited I am about it. So,
because we'll talk about it in a minute.
okay.
Just
okay.
Can you hold?
It's right here, though.
It's right there.
It's right,
right
here.
Hey, it's been a good week. We have been so delighted at your responses as we let episode 4 out.
Mm-hmm.
We have just tidied up on episode 5, so that's coming out. Can't wait to show you that next week. And of course, we were just listening to some music for episode 6.
Yeah, man, it's getting close.
I don't know how I feel about it. Like season 1 coming to a close.
It's going to be a good feeling.
Yeah, I think it's going to be some crying.
Like finishing a marathon. Yeah.
Episode 5.
Not that I've ever finished a marathon. I want to make that clear.
Metaphorically speaking. Episode 5 is Fruit for Zuzab. And again, we have a cool clip. You don't want to miss that one. And we are so excited. So on that episode coming up next Friday, we are going to be joined by Kevin McNally, who plays Poto.
Arr.
Pirate Gibbs from Pirates of the Caribbean. He's awesome. So you're going to really want to be around for that one. That'll be after the episode. Peet's Castle. So many things to unpack there. So much that happened in this episode. You know, the first few episodes kind of setting up, and then we left them inside of Ankle Jelly Manor. and then here's the Horned Hounds, and we're out. When you first wrote, you know, that Pete was going to have a treehouse, what was it? A boyhood, you know, kind of imagination that you were filling out? Like, tell me about that.
Well, okay, so Swiss Family Robinson.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I remember. I didn't grow up watching that. Somehow I missed it as a kid. But my kids watched it when they were little, and I was like, how did they cram like every little boy and girl dream into one story,
one place?
And so I was excited about just letting my imagination kind of go crazy. And I've said this many times, but when I was writing these books, I kept asking myself, what would 10-year-old Andrew most want to happen next? You know? And so the idea that Pete would have this elaborate treehouse with all the rope bridges and stuff was just a no-brainer. I still have designs on. I want to build a real treehouse on the property at some point.
Your kids had one at one point, right?
Yeah, they had little tree forts that they would build. But
yeah.
I'm talking like I want something real. I want to be able to sleep up there. Anyway, yeah, that was the thing. And you know, for those of you guys who know the story, it wasn't called Pete's Castle on accident. And so I don't want to spoil anything, but that's like a it looks so much like what I imagined. And one of the cool things about it too was that my son Aiden was the background artist for the first shot that you see of Pete's Castle. So this is a kid that grew up with the original descriptions of this in his head. And it's just so cool that he got to be the one to paint it.
So I grew up in eastern Colorado, wherein our trees are too small for tree forts like these. You grew up in Florida, where maybe that was more opportunity.
There were some big. The part of Florida I was in was all these tall, skinny pine trees for lumber, and so
here in Tennessee, no problem.
Yeah,
you can build tree forts and tree houses. It's a good place for it.
Yeah.
We are excited to have a special guest with us this evening. Now, I will tell you, we're live, but this part was not. So our special guest is from Prague, Czech Republic, and is the original concept designer. And I didn't realize this, but it was actually a year ago now that I was with him in Český Krumlov as he was first sketching and beginning to model.
Amazing.
And so we had to do this interview just a little earlier today, but I want to introduce you to Yuri Horchek. First, we're going to play a little clip to set up Pete's Treehouse, and then enjoy this interview with Yuri.
I want one.
I don't think he wants us to follow him. Come on.
What is this? Whoa, what are these things?
Rude, rude, no manners. Pete says, what, Malcolm? Not welcome. We could be barging, winning.
We don't know where we are. We had to follow you.
I told you the way. There, where the sun's silhouette.
Where the sun will set?
Yes, the path to Igiby Stead. Now go, 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 go.
I'm glad I got to see your treehouse, Mr. Pete. It's lovely.
It's my castle. No place for Tinker, Willie and Jam.
Jam? Hey, got any food? I'm starving.
Hey, Yuri, good to see you, man.
Hi, good to see you too.
Welcome. It's been a while since we've been together. Almost a year, right?
Yes, it's almost a year. Exactly.
That's amazing. Yeah. Wow. So much has happened in a year since Český Krumlov. Yeah. So for everybody at home, Heather and myself, and then Keith and Kim got to go to Czech Republic and to spend some time in an offsite with a bunch of great artists like Yuri, working on Wingfeather Saga to get us launched. And now, finally, a year later, they've seen what you were working on when we were together, which is Pete's Treehouse. We just got to see that for the first time last week. And I remember talking to you that you were sitting there sketching and you were like, okay, I got to work on this. But So Yuri, tell us, for everybody who doesn't know you, your skill set, what you've been trained, and kind of how you work. Tell us a bit about yourself.
Yeah, like after the school, I was like deciding what to do, and I ended up in like matte painter in the VFX. So I was working with photos in movies, doing some special effects. You know, when you have a green screen, I was putting there some things. Mm-hmm. And then I moved more towards like illustration and concept art for video games. So that was like what I liked much more, but now I'm doing it. So it's like dream coming true. It has its like own difficulties, but it's the work which like I do, and I work in a studio for which works on video games, and yeah, we are working on different projects, mostly video games. Yeah, so gotcha. That's it.
And then in your in between time over the last year, obviously you were able to contribute quite a bit to Wingfeather.
Yeah.
Lovely.
It was like real surprise, and I really enjoyed it because mostly I work in 3D and with photos, doing like realistic work. So this one was like good in that I could paint more and be like more free with the Photoshop. So that was really nice challenge and opportunity.
That's great. So when you started on this first assignment with Peet's Treehouse, had you read the books or listened to the audiobooks? Were you familiar with Wingfeather?
Unfortunately, I'm not familiar with Wingfeather, to be honest.
Yeah.
I didn't have time to catch up with it.
Yeah.
So it was really thanks to my art director, Garrett, who like gave me good instructions. He's always well prepared, so he prepares references and gives me this brief, and so I can work as so it's as clear as possible for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So he launched you into Peet's Treehouse, and did you start with sketches or did you start working in CG?
Yeah, first I wanted to like get my mind around it, so I started sketching into my sketchbooks, some line works, but then I decided that I need to really get my mind around the space, how it's situated in the tree itself. So for me, it's really good to work in 3D, so I can like imagine it much more well. And since there's this tree and it has these branches, and as well, with the sketching itself, I wasn't like sure how it looks like. So yeah, I moved into Blender. I work in Blender, and yeah, doing just really rough mesh.
Yep. And yeah, and we've got some of those images we can share, but the Blender, for everybody who doesn't know, is it's like if you were to take clay and shape and model things, Blender is a way of doing that inside of the computer. And so all you guys at home, that's how Yuri here is working. And now, you can kind of use block shapes or shape it, to get, and you applied some color and things like this, but how far did you go before you went back to drawing again and starting to paint?
Yeah, I go so far that I put lighting there and some basic colors. So it kind of helps me to build the painting on top of that. It's much faster for me because there is already the perspective and lighting and some basic colors, so it's much easier to work on top of that. Yeah, so I would basically, if I would be like traditional artist, I would set up like still life and with cubes and with some swords and all this stuff, So I have it in 3D, so it's basically the same as when you take real stuff, but it's in 3D. Yeah.
You can walk around the tree and find your best angle.
Yes.
Was there an inspiration for that tree and for a tree house? I mean, I don't know if you as a kid ever built a fort. I know for a lot of our friends reading the books, their minds were filling out their favorite tree house and a fort to hide out. Anything for you personally that was like a reference for that?
Not really personally. I've never built any tree house, and but yeah, it was more about discussion with Garrett. He had great ideas about the tree, how it should look like. So yeah, it was based mostly from Garrett's advices.
So you were working through Garrett's own memories, because Garrett has built a lot of tree houses.
Okay. Yeah. I've heard that it should be like the construction should like work. So I was like putting effort into that. So it kind of
I remember him telling that, like, he's like, you can't fake it. Like, it's got to actually be attached. Like, I got to believe that it's real. And it's hard. One of the things that we talked about at the beginning was the idea that Peet would have just used found materials, right? Things he would have taken from older buildings, or, so there's this patchwork compared to if he had built it clean, like a nice sorted building. How much more challenging was that for you to build a broken patchwork building?
It was a nice challenge because like you can come up with different ideas how to make it like interesting. So there was this idea with different like painted wood being put together. So that might be visible, and yeah, you can basically like the house can like show the personality of its creator.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really interesting that you can communicate through the environment and you don't have to tell a word, basically.
Oh yeah. Just from the outside walking up, and obviously in the show they get to see this wonderful shot of it where it really feels like, yeah, that's where Peet lives. This weird guy that's so quirky.
Yeah, like even when you walk around a city or forest, basically things almost like speak. Sometimes we are more attentive to it, sometimes less, but yeah, with concept art, it basically should speak for itself. It's not like contemporary art. You have to have a huge description for it. We have to go without description,
Yeah. Make the visuals do the work. So you worked heavily on the outside of it and kind of the tree itself. How did you start working the relationship of inside? Because there is obviously inside the space, there was some, specific instruction on how we might want to sort, where the stove is and cabinets and this sort of thing. Did you work on them together or separately?
It was together because with the 3D, it really helps that you can like really see where everything is. If I would work in just line work in sketching in 2D, it would be more difficult. So I worked them together. And I wanted to have some like uneven floor, like so it's not like rectangular, but it's like skewed. What is it called? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that was like what I wanted to put there, and yeah, it kind of organically flows things from thing to what to do,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
that's great. Well, and not to spoil for the audience at home, but they just seen a little bit of it in episode 4, and they're gonna get to see more of it later. I'll just say that. So there's more of that inside of his treehouse that we'll get to see. Since that it's been there a while, it seemed like that was kind of one of the final layers, kind of aging it. adding some moss, things like this, to make it feel like when buildings age, right, they tend to kind of slump a little bit. They tend to get a little more character. It seems like that you applied some of that here, that it feels like it's kind of settled. Was that part of the process?
Yes, like especially as you said on the roof and the moss, I love like I hope it's there, like some mushrooms and this stuff. Like it has its own like little forest like that. And yeah, like trying to find out different textures and to be more organic with it. So it's not as straight as mechanical as some modern buildings.
Mm-hmm.
It has its own like spirit, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Mm.
And yeah, it's character, so it has to have some like history behind itself.
Yeah. There's hinted at, I don't know that it was in your drawing, but there's hinted at in the final paintings we see there's maybe another structure, like a little shed or something, and there, as the bridges lead off, there's potentially other places that Peet has created that our imaginations can kind of get at later.
Yes, it was interesting to think about. Like he has its own world and different spots for observation of surrounding areas, or these like small platforms which are connected to the main house with these bridges. And also some platforms are higher, so it can be connected with ladders. So yeah, like the tree is really like almost like a small village or something like that. You can put all the spots different there. So yeah, you can move around it and relax or do some stuff, whatever.
Yeah, enjoy hanging out with Peet. So how much, Yuri, we're obviously based here in Nashville, Tennessee, and we would probably think about tree houses and creating them in a certain way. You're in Prague, and we've talked to other artists on the team, Eustace and others, that are like, oh, the style you want, you mean like the style we have here where I'm from, in Amsterdam for his case. But how much of your own style, living in Czech, and kind of how much of that do you think gets into your designs?
How much? Like I don't know, 30%.
Okay. Yeah.
I don't really know the answer to that.
Because if I told you to, I assume if I said, hey, I want this to look very Western or American,
okay,
you would go and know exactly. I think in Peet's Treehouse, it doesn't have that feeling, right? It feels like it's from some other space, right? It feels a mix of ideas, right? Mix of locations even.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I've never been in the USA, so yeah, it probably here in Czech Republic we have like these cottages, and yeah, they have certain look, and I guess yeah, certain elements I apply there, like shingle roof. Yeah, but I think in the USA you have shingle roofs, or not?
Yeah, we do. They're different than yours. Ours are typically tar or asphalt, where I think you guys still maybe have some wood or other materials.
Yeah, but for this design, I did not apply any like special Czech things for my architecture. So yeah, more I found some like for the windows, I found some like from USA, some similar things. So I don't think maybe the chimney.
Yeah, that might be some of it.
Yeah.
Well, it's a fantastic design, and we know the readers, having read the books and had imagination in their head of what Peet's Treehouse might look like, and and we've seen different kind of drawings at it, and obviously now we finally revealed our version of it that is lived in and acted in and, you know, inhabited. And it's been remarkable, and it's been fun to hear from some of the fans, just their reaction to it, you know, that like, oh, that's exactly what I thought it would be, which is fantastic. You know, that's what you hope to land.
Yeah, I like as well the interior. I really liked working on the interior. Like with Garrett, we talked about the atmosphere and stuff, and yeah, there are some small details which I hope will be there in the final thing. So I hope people will enjoy. Yeah.
That's good. Well, they'll get to see a whole lot more of it in an upcoming episode. I'm not going to say when or how, but it's more of it. And that we got an introduction so far. Well, Yuri, thank you for taking a minute to tell us about this. So glad to finally get that beautiful work a year later out to the fans. Takes a long time, but great to see you, and thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you too. Be well.
So good to have Yuri. He's a good guy.
Good
we
dude.
met him, you know, we did this offsite as we started this journey of animating and building out all the concept stuff a year ago. And he was so excited to be on the project. Like many of the artists that have joined us, just so excited about the story and kind of the rich world and getting to make that amazing treehouse. So he is a concept designer. So his job, like you heard, is to take the ideas and put them down into something we can actually get in with. And of course, Garrett had a significant influence. Then once that's locked and we know what the images you saw, here's the concept. Then all of our background painters will go and actually put the paintings that we see in the show. Okay, so your concept kind of inspires and then figures it out, and then the background paintings. And so the background paintings for this sequence was Aiden.
Yeah.
And he just did a brilliant job. So that first reveal, the clip we showed, you know, and Tink, I want one, you know, is Aiden's wonderful painting. It's really awesome. Lots of layers, and we can do some cool stuff, and there's some leaves added, and it just comes alive. So fun. When we watched this episode, Aiden and his wife Natalie, who's also a background painter for the show, we were watching the show, and like every 5 minutes he'd be like, I painted that background, and she would be like, I painted that background. And it was really cool because we're not there for a lot of this stuff. It all gets assembled, and you know, and I see kind of the more finished product, so it's really fun to know, oh man, that's right, everything that you see in this show, every background that you see was a person made it. That's right. Hey, so we're going to take some questions at the end. So if you have, put them in the comments if you have any questions for us, and we're going to answer them here. Yes, thank you, Marilee. There are people around the world, which gives it, I mean, like I said with my interview with Yuri, the influence, like guys like Eustace, who's in Amsterdam, they're pulling in their own architectural familiarity, and it gives our show a broader reach, you know, than if it was all people based just here in Nashville. Okay, so this episode, one of the things that happened is we learned quite a lot about Oskar in Retief. That Oskar is the mild-mannered bookseller, but also deeply connected with the Igibys. And you know, I think if you were surprised, like some people, that the moment there was trouble, Nia goes to him, and then they go off on their little journey. And you realize that Oskar is a bit of a confidant, and then suddenly he shows up at this tragic scene, you know, right at the end here, and helps scoot the kids and run and go off. Who is Oskar, Andrew? Let's talk about that character, because he's this funny, quotable character, and suddenly he's taking all these actions. Tell us about kind of when you were thinking of this character and how he came to life. Do you want me to do it in Oscar's voice? All of it in quote.
Well, I remember I was working on the book. I was writing it.
I was working on the story, and I love bookstores, so of course the town of Glipwood needed to have a bookstore. And I really wanted Janner to be a bookish kid, and so the idea was to have this old man that he was kind of a protege of in this bookstore. So anyway, I loosely based Oskar on my dad. My dad is a pastor and a retired pastor now, but he it looks a little bit like Oskar. My dad doesn't have quite the big mustache, but he's like Oskar in some ways. I grew up, in his office at the church. I would walk in and there would just be books all along the walls and he'd be in there reading, So that feeling of kind of awe and at the smell of a good book and a room full of books and stories, that was part of the inspiration, I think. But Oskar, his propensity for quoting, non sequitur. Well, they're actually not non sequitur. They apply very directly. It's kind of amazing. But his ability to quote was kind of a joke. I was telling somebody when we were working on this story, I was like, Oskar is C-3PO. Like if you think about Star Wars, the way C-3PO is kind of just in the background, doddering around, and he's kind of comic relief in Star Wars. But then he ends up actually playing a big role, like a surprising.
I think the heroic part of him is like the most refreshing, right? Because you could just be comic, but he actually has this heart for I can do good in the world,
and he wants to. He knows enough stories to where he wants to help. And there's hints in episode 2 when we see Gammon. And we cut to Dugtown, and there's the shadowy figure on the carriage, and he says, "These are going to Angel Jelly, right?" And you get the sense that Oskar is a part of this resistance. He's working behind the scenes, and so it makes a lot of sense that the Igiby family would have wanted someone in the town to have been an ally.
That's right,
a secret ally. So Oskar knows a lot about the kids and their family and what's going on in the world.
Yeah. Casting, obviously, you in this role.
I didn't want to do it.
I know.
I didn't want to do
it. You're doing... you guys can comment here, but he's doing a brilliant job, isn't he? I'm serious. I really love it. It's funny. You've done the voice enough now that my brain disassociates. Like, I know Oskar.
I'm kind of in the same place. When I watch the show with Jamie, she laughs out loud every time because she still hears me. The scene. This is the episode where he bursts into the bookstore and he sees Zuzab and he goes, "Bomb Nubbles, Zuzab, you scared, man."
So that's actually in episode 5.
Oh, that doesn't happen. I didn't say anything. I didn't spoil anything.
But that may or may not be part of the clip we're about to show you at the end. So don't just stay around for that.
But yeah, we laugh out loud at the thing. But I didn't want to do it mainly because I loved I did it for all the audiobooks.
Sure.
I voiced him. Did all the characters' voices in the audiobooks. And I'm like, one of the most thrilling things about all this is seeing everybody else's imaginations come to bear on this thing.
Sure.
And so hearing somebody else do, Poto is just a blast. And so I was kind of thinking the same thing with Oskar, but you just wore me down, man. You just wouldn't let me off the hook.
You just know it perfectly how he would deliver this with heart, not for comedy, though it's funny. There's this real person with an opinion, and those quotes even, I think you all would agree, come off with, a genuine I've just made a bit of a connection, and I want to tell you about the connection in my brain, by quoting it.
Yeah.
And I love it so much. He has been drawn a number of ways over time. So we've had an image. This is one of my favorites. Remember this one from Wingfeather Tales. So some of you have seen this one of Oskar running. It's just he's speeding along, and this is in Wingfeather Tales, Prince of Yorshadun. That was Nicholas, right?
Yeah, Nicholas Cole. It was at Hutchmoot, our Rabbit Room conference, and I read a passage of this book to a group of people, and he was in the audience sketching what I was reading. And he showed me after my reading, and I was like, "Can I put that in the book?" And
there it is.
Sent me a snapshot of it.
But before we saw this, we actually have a visual of what Oskar looked like if we were to do the live action one.
Oh no!
So I think we have this.
What is about to happen?
That was close.
What was close?
Hello, my name is Oskar Teep. Oskar is a really sweet character. He's loosely based on my dad. My dad's middle name is Oskar. He loves to quote things. He loves to read. He's very bookish, but he also has this surprisingly adventurous spirit. He's been involved in a quiet resistance to the Fangs. He loves his bookshop. He loves to be a homebody, but he also loves the Igibys. There he is.
Old art.
Old art.
So good.
Oh no.
Oh, Janna, my boy, as the great poet and not so great circus performer Adderley Flameswallow's head, I could maybe use some help.
Oh, well, I can come back tomorrow.
He tends to just quote authors. Every now and then he says something that's an original thought, but for the most part, he's just so into books that he just can't resist sharing his knowledge that way. And it may or may not be accurate, the quotes that he's giving. He is a very kind soul and is a homebody who has been swept into an adventure, and he's not entirely sorry for it.
Listen, there is only a few minutes for me to explain it all to you. Andrew Peterson didn't write a word of these books. He didn't draw a single picture. He made it all up. He stole it from me. My name's Oskar Teep.
Oh my.
There he is. So, yeah, there's some,
that's out there.
You've played them.
It's out there.
There's
There's a video out there of me wearing that costume, reading the Black Carriage poem as like a fun Halloween video. But I had this idea a long time ago. I mean, that was probably 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh man, wouldn't it be funny if I had this YouTube thing where I would dress up like this guy who lives in my neighborhood who is claiming that I stole the Wingfeather Saga from him. And the guy's name is Oskar Teep. Mm-hmm. Anyway, that I mean, I could resurrect it. I could bring it back.
We could pull it back.
Oh, it's a different accent. It's a very different accent.
It's funny to hear it now because, at the time I was like, oh, that's what he sounds like. And I remember when I was reading to my kids going, that sounds different than I thought it would.
Somebody pointed out in the Slugs and Bugs records, Randall Good Games Slugs and Bugs, Sing the Bible stuff. There's Chauncey the raccoon is one of the characters.
Yes.
And some kid at a show was like, Chauncey the raccoon is Oskar Teep, and I was like, oops. So like the British voice is kind of the same voice as this raccoon in one of the songs that Randall wrote. Yeah.
Well, it happens in the Muppets. They reuse voice sounds all the time. So, we're not going to do that. So, Oskar, coming up in episode 5 next week, is going to have some other significant parts of the story. What are you most excited about for Oskar through the next couple episodes?
Oh wow! Let me remember the next couple of episodes. It's all getting mashed up in our brains.
I know,
because we're like watching multiple episodes every day to kind of like work on them. I'm remembering.
So the next episode is Fruit for Zuzab.
Yes.
So.
Fruit for Zuzab. We get to see Oskar in. It's probably one of my favorite scenes of Oskar's when he's talking to the kids.
Yes.
In Ferenia's flower shop. I'm not going to say anything else, but it is this great scene where you get to see a little bit of his heart and his desire for adventure, and a lot of that. I have to say, the animators are blowing my mind. There's so many little things in this, I'm trying to remember when in episode 1 where Oscar's standing at the book counter and Zuzab's next to him and he's reading the book to like the way he kind of leans over to Zuzab and kind of says, "Oh, I'm so smart," That's all stuff that they're just coming up with, And
it's hard to go from, because we read it in the script and there's the words and we go, those are the words we should use. I like those. And then somebody voices it, usually you and I scratching it. And that's fun. And then the animators come to life with it.
Yeah, they're the actors. It's really amazing. But there's a scene in episode 5 where he says, "It should be me," and he kind of looks up into the distance and you can see that he's picturing himself this hero. And I didn't say it like that, but they read that into the character because they knew him so well. So yeah, it's pretty great.
Great bits. You're gonna love that. So we have a clip that we'll show you at the end. So stay around for that for it. But. Love Oskar. Thank you so much for doing it.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
That guy.
Always so happy to do it.
It's good. Lots more in his story to come. Okay, we're going to do a Q&A. So if you've got questions, throw them in the comments, and we'll see if we can answer those, all the hard questions. So feel free to pop them up. Do you find that the animation process, this is our little teleprompter over here, has become more streamlined as you complete more episodes? Evan, Isabel. Why, Evan?
Good question.
Are you noticing some things? 100%. Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, we actually talked about this. Oh, I didn't tell you this.
What?
Oh. Well, it's actually going to be a question I'm going to answer for us in a minute about the episodes and where they are. But yes, by episode 3, I would suggest we really kind of got distilled down the animation pattern. It's not really the quality; it's like just how it all comes together. It's like adjusting the recipe. And you noticed it. I mean, I know.
I did. I brought it up. I was like, I can't tell if the show is looking better and feeling better, or if I'm just getting used to what it looks like. And you were like, it's probably a little bit of both. Yeah. But yeah, everybody is finding their lane.
Yeah, and streamlined is a good word, Evan. But I would also say it's about establishing our style. You know, we were still kind of sorting through that in episodes 1 and 2. Having established said style, we may or may not be going back to 1 and 2 to apply style.
Yes. It's
You know
exciting. I made notes today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I did. It's super
I
exciting.
sent that to you.
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah. I made a bunch of notes.
Yeah, so we're going to just kind of do a little cleanup.
It's kind of fun to be able
So we
to
can
go
do
back and tweak some things.
Yeah. We have a little space before season 2 comes crashing down upon us. You guys...
I heard that little...
it's a lot.
It's going to be a lot of work.
Where did you guys get the idea for Peet to eat leaves? It's different from the books, but it seemed like a fun
it's just funny.
Yeah.
It's not, and it's in character. It's not a... it wasn't my idea. It was the script writers. I think they put it in there. And I was like, oh, that's great. That sounds like something Pete would do.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
it makes for a great joke. Every time I've watched that episode with an audience, and he says, "You eat dried leaves," and he goes, "Sometimes wet." It always gets a laugh.
Yeah. So it's working. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Luke. Michaela, nice to see you. What was the scene that made you cry when seeing it on screen?
For me, it was the very end of episode 4 when we finally get to see Poto come to life. It's the moment where they come over the rise. I'm talking about the right episode, right? I'm so scared that I'm going to spoil something. They come over the rise and they see that their cottage is being ransacked, and Lily says, "Mama," and they see that Nia's been captured, and you see Poto, the Papa in Poto, he kind of looks down, and you see him, like, don't mess with my daughter, and he comes running. I got a lump in my throat just talking about it. It's a great scene. It's a wonderful scene. Like, he, in a sense, it's like he knows he's not going to be able to do it, but he has to do something. You know,
well, you can't just walk away.
Act. Yeah, you couldn't just leave her. I love that scene.
I will say for me, that scene, but right behind that, in the woods, Poto meets Peet and shoves him. And it's just so confusing. We had a version of that scene that we wrote that he actually punched him out.
In the books, that's what happens, yeah.
And we put it in the script. Well, in the books, it's a little... He goes on an alley and beats him up, right? Yeah. You know, you did a nice job. That was a common in the books. Just out of sight. Cover your eyes, children.
Yeah.
But we did it where he decked him out, and you're like, it's probably too strong. And so in here, he just pushes him really hard. But it still has the same emotional impact of like, wait a minute. Like, this guy just rescued us from this. I mean, we know as an audience what he's done, and he just helped him with a quill diggle, like, and he still does this. And it really speaks of a deep well of animosity there that we don't understand.
I love it, too, because I love Poto. Like, he's clearly a good grandpa, right? But he's also firm. He's got a temper. There's a scene in episode 2 where he kind of like has enough of the kids running around the house, and he goes, "Enough!" And the kids all kind of stop. And it's like they know that he's a safe one. You know, they know that he loves him, but he's also an ex-pirate. He's a reformed pirate, and I don't mean theologically reformed. But so he's still got a little bit of that rascaliness in him, and I love the fact that his character, he's not perfect. He's got real flaws, and you see that unfolding.
He's a real guy. Yeah, more to unpack there. All right, next question. What you got? Thank you, Michaela. Does Janner wear socks under his boots?
That's a great question. I'm going to say I've never seen Janner without his boots on. No, I don't know. Yes. How about a yes?
Okay.
Solid yes.
Can I plus this? Can I plus this?
Please.
Does Janner have feet under his boots?
In animation,
they don't.
No.
It just goes leg to shoe.
That's funny.
We actually had a conversation about this because we wanted to have a character, take off a boot or a shoe, and have a foot. And it was like, well, we got to make a foot. Like, what? There's not a foot under there? No, it's just a shoe.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? It's a reminder that once again, everything that you see on screen had to be made.
It has to be made, and you don't make digits and toes if you don't need to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bogdan. What was your inspiration behind Jurgen's tune? Andrew, you are such an inspiration.
Oh, you're so kind. Thank you, Sarah.
Jurgen's tune.
Jurgen's tune is all that credit goes to Isaac Horn and Lincoln and the Arcadian Wild band, which you guys should totally be listening to if you're not listening to the Arcadian Wild. But I remember when we were making the short film, because it's the same song that we used in the short film from a few years ago. I went to Isaac. We were having a meeting about what the music should sound like, and Isaac is the guitar player, one of the songwriters in the band. And I was telling the band, I was like, yeah, I want it to sound kind of Irishy and kind of like Old Englishy, but also kind of bluegrassy and kind of sad and kind of happy and kind of mysterious. and kind of magical. And I was just giving him all of these adjectives, and then he did it. I don't know how they did it, but when I hear it, I'm like, oh yeah, I hear it. It sounds like little like British Isles. It sounds old. It sounds so. Yeah, I didn't write that music. That's the Arcadian Wild being amazing.
And the lyrics are from the book. Obviously, you wrote out the story there, and the melody and all that.
Which when I wrote those lyrics, I never ever would have thought that anybody would ever have a reason to actually compose that song. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just sitting in a coffee house banging out words, and I don't even know if it rhymes. I don't think that one rhymes. And there's the line "Raise the Rock," where Jürgen fell, and they sing "Raise the Rock, Raise the Rock," and I always picture them in an arena. Raise the rock. But anyway, yeah, I was just couldn't believe that it worked. And so kudos to Arcadian Wild. Speaking of the songs, we are working on that soundtrack, and we hope to have that soundtrack complete and out before we're too far gone on season 1. It's I actually, as I'm sitting here talking to you about this, realized that I was supposed to chase Ben Shive today. Oh, we're supposed to have a chat about
somebody
that.
just asked when will the soundtracks for the show be released?
Oh, there it is. Thank you, Anna. Yeah, it's on our mind. We know. So much great music, and we're going to do some cool stuff to make the soundtrack. I don't know if you know this. We're going to take music from the show, but kind of plus it just a little bit, because once it's there by itself, we want to have like it really awesome. So yeah, we are working on it. Hopefully have it out before the season 1's done. Yeah. Kalmar Lowell asks, which Fang is running the YouTube channel?
What does that mean?
Well, it's actually a group of Fangs running the YouTube channel. Because YouTube is of course owned by Fangs, and Nag the Nameless, runs it. I guess Nag would be Google in this case. I don't know. Right?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get sued, so I don't.
So Google is an unseen evil, right?
He's joking.
We love you, YouTube. Okay, so speaking of YouTube, actually, thank you, Kalmar. I'm going to launch into this. So you will have noticed the episodes are not staying on YouTube. That has been from the beginning a strategy, but because of the December with the January break and February, we have just enacted that. And so if you're going to watch those episodes, they're just going to be a sample of those episodes, and then it's going to say, hey, please come watch the rest of these over at Angel Studios. You can watch it on the website. You can watch it in their fantastic apps. They have them for mobile and TV. It's all still free, but that is by far the better viewing experience. Yes, and so definitely. One might ask, Andrew, why? Why would we want to go over there and watch it on Angel Studios? Well, I'll say first right away, we are going to still do live streams like we're doing now on YouTube and Facebook, and so you can watch them just limited time, and they're going to go away. But right away, the quality is better than YouTube, because we are streaming these things, and so it looks better, sounds better. Subtitles are actually there and actually are proper, right? That kind of thing. We are going to get more languages. You and I have both heard some of the Spanish and Portuguese dubbing that's happening.
Super cool.
Yeah. So that's coming. So that's going to be really cool to unlock for that audience. Yeah. It's also, as we get to talk to you and have connections with you through the Angel Studios app, we get to have that relationship with you and tell you all kinds of things about what's happening, more so than on the public areas of YouTube and Facebook. Those areas, are not ours. They're great kind of billboards, but Angel Studios is our home, and so that's another big one. And then honestly, on YouTube, this actually came up this week. I don't know if I told you this, but we were down in Miami at Kidscreen and looking at places to license Wingfeather out in the world.
Which means what to people who don't know?
Yeah. So ultimately, when season 2 comes out, we'll talk more about that in a minute. Then season 1 could go someplace else, right? Season 1 could be available on another platform. It could be available to license. Someone could pay money to say, hey, put it out here on this platform, which could be internationally. It could be with an audience here in the United States. If you look at The Chosen, which is ahead of us, they ended up going on to Peacock. While season 2 was coming out, season 1 was available on Peacock and that kind of thing. They're now on Netflix and multiple platforms. And it's really about those kind of opportunities. Well, if it's on YouTube, it kind of kiboshes those conversations, right? If it's permanently on YouTube. To have a little live stream, fine. So another big reason we want to make it go away. The other thing we've heard from some families is peace of mind. So there's this issue of, on YouTube, there's lots of things on YouTube. There's our great show, which we're so proud of, but there's also other things that may not be great for your family. And so we can't guarantee what might follow our episodes, right, that you can stumble into. And so in the Angel Studios ecosystem, you're good. you may get the chosen after us, but that's not the worst thing. So
Yeah.
and then we want Angel Studios obviously is our home, and so the show is always meant to live there. And it is, if you were going to watch Mandalorian, you're going to go to Disney Plus, and so Wingfeather Saga, Angel Studios, and so hope that makes sense. But for all of you that are like, wait, what happened on YouTube? And we should have told you more about it. It was my fault for not talking about it on our live streams. That, hey, by the way, it's going to go away, and you'll hear more from us on the next two.
So to be clear, like when you watch the live stream, it will be there. The whole episode will be there, but after a few days,
couple days, go away.
It'll go away, and then but what I have found is that I would rather watch it on Angel.com or the app. Anyway, the apps are great. They're really well put together apps, and so it's pretty great. And you can find out what else is playing on Angel.
That's right. Yeah, lots of new stuff coming, which we're excited. We've got some friends and colleagues that are making new shows out there. So, all right, what are the questions you have? Let's see if we got a couple more here. Looking at it's General Crack running
General
YouTube.
Crack
Seems reasonable, says Selena.
It's
I
possible.
don't think so. Maybe.
Any real questions? Okay,
What is your strategy for raising funds as the show goes on? Evan, welcome back. What is your strategy for raising funds as the show goes on? This is a complicated question. So in television, it takes a long time for shows to ultimately make money that pays back for the show. It just takes, over many seasons of television. That's how that works. And so in the meantime, studios, so whether it be ABC or Netflix, pay money to make those seasons. And then eventually that comes back, right? In this case, the crowd helped us to raise money to make season 1. And now, in case you're curious, the crowd can help us to make season 2. And we expect that we'll have people helping us funding, whether the crowd or other investors, to help us make seasons 2 and 3. And then we'll see what happens after that. But these first couple seasons as we get going, and that's because we want to get the show to you faster. So we could also just wait and say, well, season 1's done. We'll see you in 2 years.
Once we raise the money to make season 2 or whatever.
And that's what other shows have done, like Chosen. It was almost 2 years between their seasons. That for us would be too long. We'd have to say goodbye to our entire crew, and tooling down and tooling back up is actually time. It's hard.
And all the kids that are into season 1 are going to be teenagers before it's over. You know what I mean?
Especially because we're about for 7 seasons.
Right. Yeah.
That's probably 14 years. If we went over 2 years.
Yeah, that's a bad idea.
Not a good idea.
We got other stuff we need to be doing. No.
Yes. So that it is about earning over time. So we're going to invest as that builds up. If that makes sense, Evan. And I know it's.
But then there's also merchandising.
And then in that is ways that revenue kind of builds up to pay for the show itself. And so that flywheel, the engine of that, is underway, and it's doing its job. In fact, Andrew, do you want to talk about some of that?
Yeah, I don't know if we.
You're such a nerd about this. What do you have in your hand there?
What? Speaking of merchandise. One of the fun things, talking to Brock and the team of people who are doing all this merchandising stuff, Jamie said, like, she's desperate for action figures, which happened thanks to you guys.
Yeah, action figures happened, and then more action figures are coming.
That might be a Peet the Sockman prototype.
A Peet prototype that we're working on.
So those of you guys who pre-ordered back in December, they're being made right now, and I cannot wait to get my box in the mail. It's going to be this really cool set of the kids in Solarb, right? And that's super fun. But one of the things that Jamie wanted action figures. I was like, I want drinking glasses. Can we just get, because I have these great memories of being a kid. And I don't know if you remember the Burger King glasses. There were these DC Comics Burger King glasses, and I had my Batman glass, and there was a Robin glass and an Aquaman glass, and I just loved it. I got to go into the kitchen, like, pick the one that I was going to drink out of for dinner that night. So I was like, guys, we got to have glasses.
And
we've got glasses. Check this out. There's really cool. Oh, I'm going the wrong way. Yeah. There is the Fang one. It's got a cool W here on the back for Wingfeather, and then the other glass is the kids. Look at this one. It's all 3 of the kids standing there. Tink's got his bow, and then the Wingfeather thing on the back. They're not dishwasher safe, but don't let that scare you off. It's going to be okay. And the other cool thing, one of the things that I love about Angel and the merch that they've put out, somebody said I'm going to buy. Thank you, Sarah Farmer. But the everything has been like a little better than I expected it to be.
Yeah.
So like when I ordered my hoodies or I ordered the hat, I got it and I was like, oh, this is not just some throwaway thing. It's really great. So it's like, it's actually embossed, like the glass actually has like, it's raised where the lettering is. The glass is actually raised. So it's just a beautiful keepsake. So here they are.
Yes.
This is how we're going to pay for season 2.
So every time that you go on that, these journals we had run out of. I love these journals. Our Thags journals. It's got this beautiful etching on here, 3 honored and great subjects. And it's got a little thingy, to unpack, and some cool illustrations.
Pretty cool stuff.
Those are the original Nicholas illustrations.
Mm-hmm.
With Lily with the crutch on the wrong side. We know that. Don't tell us. We know that.
So one of the things I would say about toys and merchandise, like, it's, to me, it's not gross. We're not wanting to make just materialistic stuff to put out into the world. I remember, and I'm sure you do too, how much my imagination was ignited by the Star Wars action figures.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah,
How
yeah.
many hours I would lay on my stomach and make up stories with these action figures. Same thing with the Legos. I mean, there's just such a wonderful kind of ignition for the imagination that the right kind of toy does. So that's the thing, is like we're like, hey, this helps us make more show, but it also gives your kids and your family something to like to actually edify and enrich what's going on in your brain. And so I really believe in that. So I'm excited that we get to do both here.
Yeah, we get to do both, and we've got a really cool set of new stuff coming up this year that you're gonna love it. And I saw Marilee that used to have it, and Sophie, that journal, it's great. I didn't know we were making it. It showed up. I think Andrew and I are both in the position of stuff shows up. Oh my gosh, that's really cool.
It's true.
Hey, one cool thing this weekend, it's President's Day, and so the entire Angel Studios store is on sale, 15% off. They just told us right before we started this, and if you use the Prez 2023, that's with a Z, then you're going to get 15% off on the whole site. Lots of cool stuff out there. There's the bucket hat and the puzzles. I highly recommend the puzzles. They're
Puzzles
really
are amazing,
cool. And some stickers and all the shirts. So anyways, sale going on this weekend. If you want to pick up some of that, and every time you purchase merch, you're helping support our show. I mentioned a minute ago, but we do have, we announced this last week. We kind of just open it up. But the opportunity, if you would like to invest with us, we have another crowdfund open to help support season 2. And you can learn lots of information on that. We're going to be sharing more and more about that over the coming weeks. But it's out there. If you want to help us make season 2, this is your chance to become an owner, to invest and become an owner in our company, and helping make the show and all of these cool products is all part of that same business. So go to invest.angel.com/wingfeather. You can learn all kinds of things about that. Okay. Any more questions? I don't know. I sorry, we kind of got off onto the store stuff, and I don't miss anybody else any other questions here. Or are we all done? Was that all the questions? I think we have.
Okay, I think we're good. Yeah.
We don't want to jump on and like. Well, there was that one burning question, Okay, so next Friday, don't miss it. Fruit for Zuzab, episode 5. We have Kevin's going to join us. It's going to be it's a big one.
I was going to say, don't be deceived by the kind of whimsy of that title. This is a big episode.
Anything you want to say about that? Just a little note here.
Yeah, and we'll probably make the note later. When we did a screening of episode 4 over for the Rabbit Room community. And it's really fun to get to stand in the back and watch people watch the show. And so there's a whole bunch of families in the room, kids who are just all in, sitting on the front row watching episode 4. And episode 4, as you know, is the episode where Vop dies. And you get to really see how awful the Fangs really are. And Slarb kills Vop, and it's a death. And I think it's kind of jarring to see in an animated show, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, oh yeah, this can happen. And I remember some of my favorite TV shows. Whenever a main character goes down, it changes your whole experience, because you're like, oh, anything can happen in a show like this. And so I think that was the first hint of that kind of action and that kind of peril. Mm-hmm. And then you get a little bit of it with Poto fighting the Fangs. But that, if you've read the books, you know that this is a story that where people die, and there's real danger. And in the way, there's a sense in which I'm like, we're being careful with that. But we also, when you watch Star Wars. I keep bringing up Star Wars or Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings. I mean, part of the thing that makes the stakes in those stories so high is that there really is real danger. Real things happen. And so episode 4 is an episode where you kind of really begin to see that happen. And I think that's part of the power of a good story.
Yep.
Because we can't make a straw man out of the bad guys. It's like, no, the reason we care so much, we're pulling for Janner and Tink and Lily and the family, is because they're up against losing everything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think you get a bigger taste of that in episode 5, and then of course in 6 too. So just we throw that out there just so that you can make sure that you're watching this with your family, and in case you want to talk about it with them. But there's nothing gratuitous, but at the same time, I think that I'm excited about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's a signal that like this is a different kind of story.
Yeah.
And you know, there was somebody in the audience when I asked him, I was like, did you feel it when Vop died? And the mom said yes. And then she said, thank you. She said, thank you for showing evil for what it really is. And so that's what our characters are up against.
Yep. So just know that the rating of our show is TVY7 with fantasy violence as a thing. So just 5 and 6, that's going to be a thing. All right. So we told them we'd have a sneak peek.
Yes.
We have a special clip. Anything you're excited about for this next episode that we want to?
Oh man, I think I've said it all. I like. I would say one more thing, if I could say something. And like, if you have friends out there who have not caught up yet, now is the perfect time to get caught up.
Yep.
Like before episode 5, it's 90 minutes about that you can watch now. Episodes 1, 2, and 3. Well, 4. It's more than 90 minutes. Isn't it?
We're up to 2 hours.
It's about almost 2 hours. So it's like, if you want to curl up on a Saturday morning and watch the whole thing with some popcorn, get people caught up so that they can experience the thrill of it unfolding. Episode 5 and episode 6. Just because it's just more fun that way.
Yeah.
It's more fun to kind of be in on it as it's happening. And so now's the time.
Go for it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Andrew, good to see you.
You too, man.
Thanks for joining.
Yeah.
Thanks, y'all, for joining
Thanks,
us
everybody.
this evening. And enjoy this clip, and we will see you next week. Good night.
See ya.
Bomnables, you scared me, Zuzab.
Fangs came calling on Mr. Oskar today.
They what? Well, that would explain the stench of rot and mildew. What did they want?
Little Igiby's. But Zuzab said he had not seen Tink or Tinks's berries for 3 days, so he thinks perhaps the children were eaten by dragons.
Very good. I need to prepare the wagon for another shipment.
More books from Dugtown?
Odds and ends, Zuzab, odds and ends.